Have you ever felt it? A clumsy glance from someone quickly looking away? Or a man suddenly becoming awkward, stammering, speaking in short, blunt phrases only when he's around you? That awkwardness isn't random. It might be love quietly stirring beneath the surface of his unconscious mind. Carl Jung, the soul's psychoanalyst, once wrote, "What is not made conscious appears in our life as fate, and in love that means he might have fallen for you long before he realized it himself." True love rarely begins with words. It begins with a skipped heartbeat, with a gaze that can't be explained, with a strange sense that I feel safe here, even if there's nothing tangible to hold on to. A woman once shared, "He always remembers the smallest things, like how I don't like ice in my drinks, or that I once said I wanted to learn piano. But when I asked if he liked me, he just gave a half smile and changed the subject." Is that indifference, or is it a form of love too tender to be named? Jung would call this the soul reacting from a deep level. When your presence awakens the anima, the feminine archetype within a man, everything familiar in him begins to shift. He loses the confidence he usually has. He hesitates when facing you. And sometimes he goes silent, not out of disinterest, but because he can't find the words for something that feels too real. This kind of love doesn't arrive through logic. It comes like a dream. And if you're sensitive enough, you'll begin to notice. He's more present when you're not expecting him. He remembers the little things you never thought anyone noticed. He might even worry about you in ways he himself doesn't understand. Jung once wrote, "The soul does not speak in words. It speaks in images, emotions, and symbols." The same is true of unconscious love. It doesn't confess, it transforms. It doesn't express through speech, it creates space for you to exist in. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into the very first sign of a man falling unconsciously in love. Not a love letter, not a bouquet, but the way he starts noticing the tiniest changes in you, your voice, your mood, your gestures, because that is how the soul says, "I've already seen her." So keep listening, because perhaps you're already standing in front of something real. A love that doesn't yet dare to speak, but has chosen you long before words could ever arrive. The first sign when attention is no longer coincidence. Imagine sitting in a crowded cafe. The air is filled with noise, laughter, clinking glasses, endless conversations. And yet, you sense a gaze. It's not loud, not aggressive, but steady, quiet, impossible to ignore. This isn't the gaze of flirtation. It's not someone trying to impress you. It's the kind of gaze that knows you're tired even though you're smiling, that senses your unease even before you've said a word. Carl Jung might call this a moment when unconscious layers begin to touch, when the soul of a man begins to feel you, even if his mind hasn't caught up yet. Knowing the difference, strategic attention versus soul-driven attention? Many women confuse these two forms of attention, and because of that, they often miss the presence of true love. Strategic attention is easy to spot. He compliments your looks, asks what you're doing this weekend, texts you often. But everything is calculated, goal-driven, going somewhere. Soul-driven attention, on the other hand, has no clear intention. It doesn't begin with the thought, "What should I do to win her over?" It just appears, like a moment stretched out in time. He's busy, yet suddenly remembers something you once said. One day he sees a red scarf and smiles to himself because you once told him red was your least favorite color. It's not logical. It's just that somehow you've taken root in the soil of his unconscious mind. Jung called this the activation of an archetypal image. When the feminine energy within a man, his anima, is stirred by you, you're no longer just you. You've become a symbol, a story when a man becomes different because of you. Emily, a 34-year-old woman from Portland, shared this. "I used to think he was cold. He never made the first move. But one day I was feeling down and messaged him, 'I think I'll turn off my phone today.' No emojis, no drama. A few minutes later, he knocked on my door with a glass of lemonade in hand and said, 'I don't know what's going on, but would you like someone to sit beside you?' No love confession, no flowers, no promises. Just a man who sensed something had shifted in you and couldn't stay still." Jung would call that the moment when the unconscious acts in place of words. Why this kind of attention matters? Because it is the first door to a love that's real. It doesn't come from need, but from resonance, raw and uncontrollable. A man may not know why he's drawn to you, but his body knows. His heart knows. When he thinks of you in quiet moments. When he senses something is off without you saying a word. When he sees you, even when you're trying to hide, that's not flirtation, that's a soul reaction. Jung and the soul's gaze. Jung once wrote, "The soul speaks in images." When a man starts noticing you not with his logic but with his intuition, it means your image has become a living symbol in his psyche. You are a dream he hasn't yet named, a memory he never had, a sense of having known you not through conversation but through essence. Have you ever experienced this? Someone who seems to sense your moods without you explaining, a connection that never involved a love confession, but still made you feel truly seen, known, understood. If so, share your story in the comments below. We, those of us walking this path of recognizing the soul's language in love, we want to hear from you. Because someone out there may need to hear exactly what you have to say. True love, when it begins as soul-driven attention, doesn't stop at noticing. It begins to change him. He becomes clumsy, tender, uncertain, no longer the confident man he is with everyone else. But beside you, he becomes like a child learning to trust himself again. In the next chapter, we'll explore why real love doesn't make a man stronger at first. It makes him vulnerable, disarmed, overwhelmed. And that is not weakness. It's awakening. When love makes a man drop his armor, the awakening of the anima. When a man begins to fall in love for real, he doesn't become more charming. He becomes more confused. Not because he lacks confidence, but because his soul has just been called by a language he's never known how to speak. And in that very moment, the armor he's worn to walk through life suddenly feels far too heavy. Disoriented, the first sign of melting. He doesn't talk the way he used to. A man who once knew how to control every situation now just laughs nervously. A man who once made decisions easily starts to hesitate. A man who once seemed cold now looks vulnerable, shaken by a single glance. This isn't a flaw. Jung called it disarmament, a natural part of facing the unconscious, especially when the image of the anima is awakened. Real love doesn't make him stronger. It breaks him open. The anima, the inner feminine figure. Within a man's soul, Jung believed that every man holds within him an archetype, the anima, the feminine figure of emotion, intuition, and soul. When a woman in the outer world matches or awakens that image, what happens is more than attraction. It's an inner earthquake. He isn't just drawn to her, he becomes momentarily possessed by that inner feminine figure. He is no longer who he was, but not yet who he is becoming. This is the in-between, a crisis, yes, but also the very beginning of inner harmony. Jung wrote, every confrontation with the unconscious is a trial of strength, and love, if it's real, is exactly that confrontation. The foolish things he does are actually sacred rituals. You might see him struggling to find words even though he once gave hour-long speeches, repeating silly questions just to prolong the conversation, dropping his coffee in front of you, something he's never done before, texting good night only to message again 5 minutes later with something completely irrelevant, like he's grasping for a thread. Don't laugh, don't judge too quickly. Because in those moments, he's no longer in control. A part of his soul is trying to find footing in the physical world. A new version of him is being born in the space between emotion and consciousness. A real story, in a whisper from the unconscious, Maya shared this. He's the kind of man everyone at the company fears. When he speaks in meetings, the room goes still. But one day I walked in late, flustered, and he looked at me and accidentally called me by his mother's name. We all froze. He blushed, apologized. But I knew that wasn't a mistake. That was a revelation. He was melting in front of me. Jung would say that slip is not a mistake. It is the soul speaking in disguise. The anima and the melting of logic. The anima doesn't just make a man fall in love. She pulls him into a whole new journey where logic is no longer the guide. You become the living embodiment of something his soul has been searching for, but he never had a name for it. And that unnameable feeling makes him lose his balance. He's no longer as logical. He doesn't maintain distance the way he used to. He's not emotionally composed anymore because something within him is waking up and learning how to love without armor. Have you ever seen a confident man become completely unsteady in your presence? Not because of anything you did, but simply because your presence made him question everything he thought he knew about himself. Share it in the comments. Your story, no matter how small, might be the mirror someone else needs right now. You are the anima mirror for a community of souls awakening alongside you. When a man is truly moved, the shift isn't just in his actions. It flows into the deepest layers of his unconscious life. Even when you're not there, your image remains. In his dreams, in the music he listens to, in the way he begins to choose his words, react, and live differently. In the next chapter, we'll go even deeper. How do you know you've become part of his inner world, even if he's never said it out loud? Because when the soul has already chosen, your presence needs no confirmation. It leaves an imprint in energy. When you become his inner knight, unconscious protection that leads to deep love. In fairy tales, knights are imagined as brave, strong figures, always ready to protect something sacred. But on a deeper level, every man carries within him an inner knight, an unconscious protector born the moment his anima awakens. And when you become the one he instinctively feels compelled to protect, you quietly become the reason that knight stirs within him. When you become the reason, he acts without thinking. Jung noted that when a man's inner feminine anima connects with a soul that resonates deeply, he no longer tries to protect himself, he protects you. Late night check-in messages, staying up to listen no matter how tired he is, reacting strongly when someone insults you, even if it's just a passing comment. All of it happens without calculation, not because he's trying to be charming or chivalrous, but because a living image inside of him has been activated. His inner knight has awakened. When the inner knight emerges action without strategy, he's no longer the man who calculates how to win you over. He simply does what must be done, not from logic, but from soul. Like parking right at your door so you won't have to walk alone at night, handing you his jacket even when you say you're fine because he feels you're cold, listening to you late into the night even though his day was exhausting. These aren't moves. They are intuitive actions. They are the instincts of a protector, not a planner. The inner knight and anima projection. Inner transformation begins when you become the anima image awakened inside him. You are not just someone he notices. You become a catalyst for transformation. In Jungian language, this is called projection. But when the projection deepens, it gives rise to a sacred mission to protect, nurture, and honor. Jung said archetypes are not just ideas. They are living forces that act through us when awakened. The archetype is a living presence that activates when the unconscious calls it forth. You are the one who called it forth. You are the horse, he is the knight. And your bond needs no explanation. A story, unconscious protection in action. Brian from Seattle shared, "We were walking in the park. It started drizzling. I didn't bring an umbrella and he just said, 'Come here,' and pulled me close to shield me. He didn't ask, 'Are you cold?' or say anything sweet. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw something real, like his body already knew I needed shelter before his mind could form the words. He didn't say much. He simply acted. And that is the work of the inner knight, a soul-led instinct beyond language that says, you are worth protecting. The shift from protecting you to protecting himself. Most people only notice how deeply he cares for you, but forget one crucial thing. After protecting you, he begins protecting himself. He becomes someone who allows softness. He reveals parts of himself he once denied. He turns inward, finally feeling safe enough to open the doors of his heart. You begin to see in him a man both firm and tender, a fusion of intellect, action, and emotion. He no longer avoids his childhood emotions. He touches them naturally because you made him feel safe enough to do so. We can expand this. When a man becomes the inner knight for himself, he begins to integrate his anima. That means he learns to hold feminine emotions without losing his masculine core. He transcends the inner war between a man must be strong and the soul longs to soften. If he only lets you protect him, it's still a projection. But if because of you, he learns to protect himself, that is individuation, the Jungian path to wholeness. Have you ever helped someone become stronger from within just by being present? Maybe it was a glance, a single kind act, a word spoken without intent but held like medicine. Do you feel that you weren't just his lover, but the inner foundation he stood on while learning to be himself? Share your story in the comments, because stories like that don't just heal the one who tells them, they heal the ones who listen too. When the inner night awakens, the true journey of love begins, and a deeper question emerges. Will he have the courage to walk into the darker chambers of his own soul, where the shadow, pain, and the truth of his manhood reside? In the final chapter, we'll explore the shadow in a man's heart when he's in love, and how you might become the gentle guide into that realm. Stay with us, because this isn't the end of love. It's the opening to a love that knows how to heal and even rebirth the soul, the key that unlocks his individuation journey. There's a truth few people realize when a man falls deeply in love. He doesn't just love you, he's being invited to face himself. And this invitation doesn't come through roses or romantic words, but through quiet tremors in his inner world, where you, without saying a word, become the one who awakens his entire soul system. Carl Jung called this sacred process individuation, a journey of self-discovery, inner confrontation and reconciliation with the shadow, so one may become a whole human being. But what Jung didn't say explicitly is who or what activates that journey. And perhaps is you. Love is not the ending. It's the sacred beginning. Individuation doesn't begin in peaceful moments. It begins when the heart starts trembling uncontrollably, when a man realizes someone has entered his inner world uninvited. And the extraordinary thing is, you didn't do anything. You were simply present. You were simply yourself. You simply said things no one else dared to say to him. And somehow you became the mirror that reflected the very part of his soul he had long tried to avoid. The inner shift's silent but profound. He becomes quieter, more contemplative, more still, not because he's pulling away from you, but because he's moving closer to himself than ever before. Stories from childhood are told for the first time. Old wounds are confessed without fear. Strange dreams begin to surface, and you're in them. It's as if you've stepped into a forgotten part of his soul, and now he can't return to who he used to be. Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And you are the one who helps him see the invisible unconscious that once controlled him. A real story, when love opens the door to shadow. Ethan, a 38-year-old man from Oregon, shared, "I used to think love meant making her laugh. But with her, I didn't want to perform anymore. She made me want to be silent and not feel embarrassed by it. I'd never told anyone how guilty I felt about my parents. But I told her, all because of the way she looked at me, like I was allowed." You may never know it, but you knocked on the very door he had kept shut his entire life. And even if he hasn't yet found the words, he's already begun the journey back to himself. You're not fixing him, you're helping him accept himself. This is the key difference. Someone who tries to change a man creates resistance, but someone who offers space for him to be himself changes him at the deepest level. You're not healing his wounds, you're not preaching to him, you're not diagnosing. You're simply present like an open soul, without judgment, without control. And in that presence, he begins to walk step by step into his own darkness. This transformation is not a reward of love. It's a test. Individuation is not easy. And you as his catalyzer will feel confused too. You may witness his excessoronic moments when he pulls away, not from lack of love, but from fear. Times when he turns cold, not because he's distant, but because his emotions are too shaken to process. Long silences where he needs space to understand what you've stirred inside him. But if you can stay patient, if you don't try to rush his evolution, you may become the first soul he chooses to walk with on this path. Have you ever been someone's soul awakener? Or has someone ever awakened you in a way so deep it couldn't be put into words? Share your story in the comments below. Your story might be the spark someone else needs right now. Let's create a community, a place where those who've once become soul awakeners can speak of their journey. We've now explored the first unconscious signs of love, the strange, soulful behaviors, the inner transformation even in your absence, the tenderness hidden behind confusion. And now it's time to see all these not just as romantic signs, but as signs of a living process. In the final part, we'll gather everything into a symbolic, soulful vision, helping you recognize this one truth. Sometimes someone loves you not for who you are, but because your soul carries the key, that unlocks their way home. The final test, when you're hurting, his soul responds. When a woman is hurting, what awakens in him first? The mind or the soul? This is the final test of unconscious love. The place where all the words he hasn't said, all the emotions he hasn't yet named are forced to emerge through uncontrollable behavior. In the moment you are most vulnerable, his true soul reveals itself. The unconscious response, not from logic, but from soul instinct. Carl Jung once wrote, "What is not brought to consciousness comes to us as fate." So when you're in pain, it doesn't matter if the pain is reasonable or not, whether it makes sense or not. A man who loves you from the soul doesn't analyze. He shows up. It's in the way he looks deeper than usual, in the silence that doesn't walk away, in the gentle touch, the long sigh, the pause, so that you don't feel alone. He may not have the right words, but his presence becomes a roof for your soul. That's the sign of a connection that lives beyond language, a love that has touched the unconscious. Conditional reaction versus unconscious response. A conditioned reaction says, "You're overreacting. I'm just trying to help you see it's not a big deal. You need to be stronger." But a soul-driven unconscious response says, "I'm here. No logic, no explanation, no attempt to fix you or make you better." When a man loves you from his unconscious, he's not loving a perfect version of you. He loves you in your chaos, in your breakdown, in the moments you can't hold yourself together. Because he's no longer reacting from ego. He's responding from soul-level empathy. A real story, a test that happened in silence. Emma shared this. "I once had a panic attack in the middle of the night. I sent a message that just said, 'I'm scared.' No reply, no call back. But 20 minutes later, he was at my door. He didn't ask a single question. He just held me. And the next morning he said, 'I didn't know what was happening, but my gut told me you needed me.' That wasn't learned behavior. It wasn't a nice guy reflex. It was the reaction of a soul that had already merged with yours and could feel your pain, even without being told. Pain as a mirror of true love's depth. Jung said the soul needs an object to see itself. And in your pain, the man is forced to face the true maturity of his inner life, his ability to hold space for another even when he himself is uncertain, and most importantly, whether his love comes from the surface or from the depths. If he chooses to stay when you're hurting, not to fix you but to witness you, that's when you'll know he's not just loving you. He's learning to love the darkness inside himself. When you're not there, but he still feels you. The subtler test is this. When you're not physically there, but you're in pain, does he feel it anyway? Does he reach out without you asking? Message or call you just because something feels off? Feel restless inside without knowing why? If yes, then his unconscious is guiding his reaction. That is the hallmark of deep Jungian love. The soul doesn't wait for a cry for help. It feels the crack in your energy and comes home on its own. Have you ever experienced something like this? When you were in silent pain, but someone heard you anyway? If you have, share your story in the comments. That moment might help someone else recognize love isn't found in perfection. It's found in unconditional presence when everything falls apart. We need stories like these to restore the truth that the soul knows how to love far deeper than logic ever could. Look back. We've walked together through everything the mind can't explain, from the silent gaze to the subtle behavioral shifts, to presence in your absence, and finally, to how he responds when you are in pain. Now comes the time to bring it all together. In the final chapter, I'll help you name all the symbols of unconscious love. Connect every sign like a soul map, a place where you'll clearly see. Once the soul has chosen, the mind simply follows behind. Stay close. Because what you're about to hear isn't just about him, it's a quiet invitation for you to begin walking into your own emotional journey with a completely new level of awareness. When his soul has already chosen you, we follow the journey of unconscious love, from the silent gaze to the unspoken gestures, and finally to the moment of testing when you were in pain. If by now you feel a strange resonance in your heart, there's a real possibility his soul has already chosen you before his mind could catch up. But the real question isn't just, does he love me? It's, what do I do once I recognize that he does? Feminine action, as gentle as a river. Even when you realize you're the one in his heart, don't rush to expect, don't rush to demand a confession, don't rush to force clarity. Let your feminine energy speak naturally, softly. Sometimes that's all it takes to remind him you're still here. A soft message, "Have you eaten? I miss you." Meeting him as yourself, not a version you're performing. Bringing calm into the space between you, not pressing with questions, not asking him to say, "I love you." This is how you allow both souls to exhale, to connect in silence, without pressure, without words. Active waiting, not passive but sacred. Waiting doesn't mean going silent in the dark. It means transforming expectation into trust. When you notice signs from his unconscious, respond not by chasing, but by offering presence. A silent hug when he falls quiet. Giving him a book or song that you feel will softly speak of you. letting him have space but not loneliness. You're still there in your own subtle way. Waiting doesn't mean freezing your heart. It means staying warm and believing. Begin your own journey. Love is also evolution. No one matures simply by loving someone else. As he begins his journey toward himself, so can you. Write in a soul journal. How did he look at me today? Meditate with his image, not to cling, but to understand what you stir in him. Explore your emotions. How did I feel when he stepped into my pain? This isn't about control or manipulation. It's about realizing you're transforming too. And while you deserve to be chosen, you also deserve to choose yourself. Stay anchored in inner presence. You don't need to perform to be unconsciously loved. All you need is to, be present without acting. Let go of conditions. Release the need to control the story. And simply allow your shared journey to unfold by being real. When you drop your mask, he sees you, even if he's not ready to say it out loud. Most of all, let's build a community of the chosen. If you've ever felt this, that dense, undeniable resonance, please share it. Write in the comments, I feel his eyes always pause when I fall silent. Share the video because some people need to hear that love isn't always spoken, but felt through invisible presence. Subscribe and tap the bell so each time a new video drops, you'll keep deepening your insight into love, the soul, and your own relationships. This video may be the beginning, but the journey can go on forever. True love isn't a burning flame. It's the cool, clear stream that seeps gently into the dry sands of your soul drop by drop. You might not see it, but you'll feel its quiet chill. He may not have said, I love you, but his soul has already chosen you, and his mind is simply catching up. If this resonated with you, don't hesitate. Comment to connect, share to spread the knowing, subscribe, and hit the bell to walk deeper with me into the layers of love that few people ever speak of. Thank you for being here at the final minute, which might just be the first step into the deepest journey of your emotional life. See you in the next chapter.